My name is Barb Ferguson. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of the Holland area, and I welcome you to this evening's candidate forum, featuring the candidates for the mayor of the city of Holland. We are proud to offer this opportunity for the voters of the city of Holland to learn more about the candidates that are running for mayor. The League of Women Voters is a strictly nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League never supports or opposes candidates. We do take stands on issues that have been studied. One of the League's most important goals is to assist voters in making informed decisions at the polls. Therefore, we bring you tonight's program. The two individuals who are running for the mayor position are both with us tonight, Nathan Box and Larry Shattuck. Questions for the candidates have been gathered from the public and from League members through our Facebook and our website. Now at this time, I would like everyone to please turn off your cell phones and any electronic communication devices. No cameras or recorders are permitted other than those that are authorized by the League. The program will be streaming live and will also be recorded and will be available on our website in a few days. Our website is lwvholland.org, and we also have a YouTube channel. The video is the property of the League of Women Voters of Holland. Neither video nor audio clips may be copied, edited, or used for any political advertising or other purposes. We ask the members of the audience to listen respectfully and to refrain from any comments or reactions as the candidates are speaking. You'll have an opportunity to applaud the candidates at the end of the forum. Our moderator for this evening's forum is League member Marcia Bishop. Marcia will outline the format, review the rules, and lead tonight's forum. Marcia?
Thank you. Thank you, Barb, and good evening to all of you. It is a joy to see a crowd this size. This is really democracy at work, so I am just thrilled to see all of you here. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the format, just so that you have a sense of how we're going to proceed moving forward. Some of it may sound a little didactic, maybe, but that's just so that we keep you informed of the process that we think works best and gives us an opportunity to hear what our candidates have to say. The format for this forum has been established by the League of Women Voters in the Holland area. It was received and reviewed by the candidates prior to the forum. In this forum, each candidate will have an opportunity to make an opening statement, not to exceed 2 minutes. Right. In order to ensure that, the timekeeper, Claudia Berry, will hold up a card to indicate 30 seconds remaining. And a card indicating stop when the time has expired. When the time is expired, the candidate may only finish that sentence. Candidates will have an opportunity to speak in alphabetical order first, and then we will rotate thereafter. Following the open statements, the candidates will be answering written questions submitted by the public and the League members. Candidates may not make personal attacks on other candidates. This is Holland, so. Such attempts will be cut short. As moderator, I manage the forum and reserve the right to close discussion on a question. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond. We will rotate the first person to answer that question. We will begin with an opening statement, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. We will start in alphabetical order, so we'll start with Nathan. If you would please, your opening question, statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. And thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. As we've all learned, it's very important to know who you're voting for, what they stand for, and how that can directly impact our community. And especially, thank you, Mr. Shattuck, for being willing to be here tonight. I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more about you. I'm Nathan Box, the mayor of Holland. My wife and I met at Hope College. We have 3 great kids, a wonderful daughter-in-law, Michelle, and this summer we were blessed with an exceptional grandson, Nolan William. Elizabeth and our kids went to Holland Public, and Michelle went to Holland Christian. Elizabeth just retired after 33 years of teaching in Hudsonville, and I continue to own and operate a small law firm in Holland, Central Park Law. I spent the 20 years before I was the mayor serving on 15 different nonprofit and city boards and commissions, and more often than not was elected the chair. I love serving as your mayor. We have great people working here. We've had transformational projects and unprecedented economic development while weathering a pandemic. And we didn't just survive, we thrived. You have a highly effective city council. Most of our votes are unanimous. Not because the issues are easy or that we all think alike. Believe me, we don't. It's because we put the people of Holland ahead of partisan politics. We're working together, building community. I look forward to sharing with you my excitement about the good things that lie ahead. It's been a busy 4 years, but there are still many more ways that we can keep improving, keep moving ahead, working together, building community. Thank you.
Larry.
I need to find out, is this mic on yet?
Can you hear?
Well, let's go. Is it on
Yeah,
yet?
it's
Oh,
on.
it's on. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, I just want to thank you all for joining me and the mayor here today. That's a great opportunity to sit down here before you and to be able to share with you some of my story and why I'm running here as your mayor, wanting to be your mayor, actually, that is. My story is probably a little bit different than most of you here in the room. I didn't grow up in the traditional kind of family that you might all know or respect. I mean, my younger years, I was about 11 when my father left. My mom was a waitress, 2 shifts a day, and we moved 13 times before I graduated because it's kind of hard to pay the rent, you know, when things like that go on, and you suffer a lot of stress. Your parents suffer a lot of stress. So I've been, I understand how that feels. I understand what people go through who are single parents, mom or a dad, trying to raise a family. It's not easy. On the other side, I've had the opportunity to work with some great companies, some great organizations in security and risk management for 9 states and 19 chapters at one time for an organization called InfraGard, and we protected critical infrastructure after 9/11. I'm running here today because I feel I can bring some of that experience here. I feel I can relate really well to a lot of folks who have gone through stuff like I have. That's why I volunteer over at places like the Escape Ministries and over at Celebrate Recovery. I'm running here also because a lot of people ask because they didn't feel as though they were being represented equally. And that's something that's really painful for people if you're in a place. I know when I moved a lot of times, I had to understand what people were going through to be able to work with them in a way that I would be accepted and they would accept me. And I hope to be able to do that here with you as well in Holland, and love the opportunity to be your mayor.
Thank you. We will now move on to additional questions. I'd like to just share something with you, and that is I've spoken to both Larry and Nathan prior to the forum and asked if I might use their first names. So this is not a lack of respect, but that is just a way of making it more comfortable, I think, for many of the people who are here. We will begin with the questions, and this time we will start with Larry. Larry, if you would describe your qualifications and experience for the office of mayor, explain your reasons for running and how you would be an asset.
Sure. Well, my professional life, I've been in sales, I've been in marketing now for about 45 years, something like that. I've worked in small companies and large companies. I've worked in different types of sectors in wholesale merchandising. I've worked with high-tech companies. I've worked in cybersecurity for a while. I've worked in security for a long time. And I've had a great opportunity to work, as I said, with this organization called InfraGard. InfraGard is the largest public-private partnership in the country. It's partnered up with the FBI and Homeland Security. And the reason that's important is because when, after 9/11, there was a lot of things, people trying to figure out, how do you protect this country? How do you protect this nation? There are things that you look at and you try to look for the threats, you look for our vulnerabilities, and you look for the assets that could be compromised. I've learned a lot over the last 25 years working with some of the best people, the best minds in the country and even the world, who protect some of the largest organizations in the country. And some of those things I bring to the table working with those 9 states and 17 chapters around the country. Help me to work with trying to get people together to come to some consensus. And what happens is, when you do that, you have to do a give and a take. Some people kind of wonder what's the difference between me and the mayor. He's an attorney and I'm a sales guy. Somebody goes into court as an attorney and, one comes out a winner, one comes out a loser. And in my job, I've got to make winners and winners. It's got to be an equal thing. And so I try to come up with that. And in terms of why I feel I'm qualified, I can see some of the threats and the vulnerabilities that we have here. And there are some significant ones. And I want to be able to address those, particularly in the cyber world.
Thank you. Nathan?
Yeah, thank you, great question. It's really important, I think, for the members of the public to understand what the job of the mayor of Holland is in order to understand what the qualifications for a mayor should be. The mayor and the other 8 members of city council, I joke, but it's completely true, are in policy, not in implementation. The mayor is not the chief executive. The mayor is a member of the city council, and our job is to create policy within the community. We have an incredible city manager and staff that actually carry out those policies throughout the community. So why does that make me a good mayor? Well, the job of the mayor of Holland is not only to get that consensus within city council, to try to get 5 votes or more votes to get that policy across the line, but also to be a collaborator within the community, to make sure that you know the people in the different areas of leadership, whether that's at the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's at Lakeshore Advantage, our Economic Development Corporation, Tulip Time, Lakeshore Ethnic Diversity Alliance, LAUP, knowing all of those people and getting them to work together and row in the same direction. And we're in an incredible place in this community right now, where the leaders of this community are an incredibly diverse group of people who are all rowing in the same direction. And part of that is an outcome of COVID. We worked together to see this community through an unexpected challenge that happened with COVID and came out better for it. We are a strong, cohesive community, and the biggest role of the mayor is to make sure that that continues to happen.
Thank you. And this next question is yours.
Sure.
What are the most important challenges facing our community, and how do you propose to address them? What will your priorities be?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question as well. About a year and a half ago, I was sitting in a meeting with the city manager, and I said, it's almost as if the scales have fallen from my eyes and I can see the matrix. I can see how everything that we do relates to everything else that we do. Our biggest challenge in this community, and Steve Gross from Jubilee Ministries knows that, is housing. We need more housing for people at all levels and all price points. We need to make sure that the people who want to live here, who have jobs waiting for them here, have the ability to live here. One of the things that I hear about on social media more than any other is affordable housing. Can you get more affordable housing? How does the city create more affordable housing? Well, the city doesn't build houses. That's not what we do. But what we do is create an environment that makes it attractive for developers to be able to build housing in this community. And one question that comes up a lot of times is, what's affordable housing? Affordable housing is if you are paying 30% of your take-home income or less on housing. That's affordable. And what that means is for every person in this room, affordable housing means a different thing. which is why we need housing at different levels. Well, we need housing because we've got great economic development. But you can't build housing outside of town for people who work in town, so transportation is an issue as well. And we want our employers to be able to attract great people into this community, so one of the things that the city does is build great parks and make sure that we've got snow melt and a wonderful downtown and an ice skating rink. All of those things are all connected to one another as the priorities that we need to work toward. It's not any one thing or two things or three things. The job of the mayor and the city council is to try to keep all of those things moving forward and having everybody work together in their own special areas to be able to get that to happen. We can't build affordable housing in the city of Holland without great partners like Habitat for Humanity or Jubilee Ministries, or contractors who are willing to do that, or companies that are willing to come in and expand in the community, or donors who are willing to invest in the community as well.
Thank you. Larry?
Sure. Well, I would have to agree with the mayor that housing is really one of the most important things we have to deal with, the challenges we have to deal with. I spent a number of hours talking to a lot of builders here in town and trying to figure out what affordable housing is. It's one of those things that's really tough, as you mentioned just a moment ago, because everybody comes in at a different number when you're trying to raise a family, or when you come back home with your income at the end of the day. And you take a look at it, and I think housing is really important. How we grow our community is very important. I'll tell you, it's important that you understand, we understand what we have to work with. In my business over the last 20-some years of working with the security guys, the thing I found out was you really need to do a thorough assessment of what you have. And if you don't really know what you have, it's kind of hard to know how to grow it. So in this area here, we've got a fair amount of land, but you understand, of course, we've got land in the middle, and then we have the lake on the west, and to the north, we got another lake, it's water, and some townships we have to deal with. But we need a full assessment, I believe, that we haven't had, and we need to have that, and that's important to me, of what kinds of lands we have available and how we could build with them. Another thing that's very important to me anyway is, as I mentioned earlier, security. I don't think you can take security for granted. I think we have one of the best police forces in the country today. I've been with a lot of them. We have among the finest. They do an incredible job. I had a chance to ride with them a couple of nights ago on Labor Day. They're amazing. What I really think we need to do is make people aware of some of the threats in the area. If you're not aware of the threats in the area, you do not know what can possibly hurt you. Our roads are just fine. We have issues with that I've seen right now in trafficking. There's issues that are going in trafficking right now. We have issues in cybersecurity that we're not dealing with. Artificial intelligence is coming in. We have fiber coming to the home. It's a super highway to your kids' ears in your bedroom. We got to do something about that. That's extremely important. And I really believe that we really need to handle that as well.
Thank you. And the next question will be yours, Larry.
Okay.
Describe your qualifications related to budgets, policies, and engagement in local government. Be specific about your public service on committees, commissions, and/or attendance at council meetings.
Well, as you know, I've been here for 48 years. You haven't seen me too many times here in this room working with council. I have worked, on the other hand, with other individuals across 9 states, as I mentioned before. That experience allowed me to speak with mayors. It allowed me to speak with governors. It allowed me to speak time with different congressmen, congresswomen. And that kind of information, I had an opportunity to actually engage with them and actually help them to figure out how to keep their communities safe. My history in terms of what I've been doing has been really around security, cyber and physical security. That's my business. So the first thing I look at in terms of your city here is we need to figure out how we're going to keep the city safe. And as I said, the physical side right now, we're doing an extremely good job of it. But we're missing some things. There's some gaps. In my experience that I've had in that realm, working for over 20 years, I got awarded one of the top awards for that particular organization around. With my peers, they over 34, I think there was 40,000 at that time. I had the highest award, the Linda Franklin Award, which was given for my ability to pull people together when they were trying to figure out how to communicate together. Communication is a big deal. You have to figure out how you can work with all different types of individuals, all different types of needs, And I believe that's something that we could use some help with here, because I don't think that we're really working well to communicate on both sides. We had an election when the mayor was elected. It was approximately 52 to 48%. That's about half and half. And I want to tell you that the communication that I'm seeing, that I'm hearing that has been done here, it's not working together. People do not feel as though they're being working together. They don't feel as though the mayor is working together with them. And there's some things that they just don't feel that. That's what I'm being told in the field, okay? So what I'm saying is I believe it's important to bring unity, and that's what I hope to do.
Thank you. Nathan?
Great, thank you. I started my service to the community of Holland about 25 years ago, swinging a hammer on a Habitat for Humanity build site. We were doing a blitz build for Christ Memorial Church, working from 6 o'clock in the morning the day after Thanksgiving, straight through 36 hours, and we got from the foundation all the way up to the roof. Local Habitat affiliate found out that there was a young attorney that was out there swinging a hammer and thought that I might be more helpful in having them help them with their real estate closings. That led to West Coast Leadership, the 2003 Distinguished Leadership Award in the community. I lobbied hard after being a Tulip Time tour guide for 15 years to get on the Tulip Time board because I love Tulip Time so much. When I was term limited out at Tulip Time, they were just starting to put together plans for revitalizing the Civic Center. And I was asked to be part of the planning process for that, was on the inaugural board of directors and the first chair of the board of the Civic Center place. And all the while, I had been thinking in the back of my head, it would be amazing to be the mayor of this great city. But I wasn't ready for it. I waited 20 years from when I went through Leadership Holland and made a pledge to my Leadership Holland class that someday I would be the mayor of Holland. 20 years almost to the day from making that pledge, I was elected the mayor of the city of Holland. And one of the things that I've learned all along the way is how, as you said, how important budgeting is, how important getting the policies are, and making sure that you do the job that you're elected to do. One of the things that we have to do here in the city of Holland is make sure that we are only doing things that are within our operational jurisdiction. And we do those things very well, including cyber. At the June 21 Holland City Council meeting, our insurance agent came to us and said, we are receiving discounts on our cybersecurity insurance in the city of Holland because we do it so well. We do it better than almost anywhere else in the country. We know what we're doing here.
Thank you. And Nathan, the next one is yours. When you think of being mayor of the city of Holland, what percentage of the focus should be on downtown Holland versus addressing growth and community needs in the entire city of Holland?
I have a full-time job as an attorney. I'm also a new grandfather, but I spend an awful lot of time thinking about being the mayor of the city of Holland. People ask me, how do you balance those two? The very first week that I was mayor, I knew at the end of the week I was going to be on the radio that day, and I knew they were going to be asking me how I was juggling being a full-time attorney and being mayor. So I counted how many hours I had spent as mayor and how many hours I had spent as an attorney at 9 o'clock on Friday morning when I was on the radio. I had already spent over 30 hours in each job by that point in the week, and I still had a couple of days in the week to go. So I'm thinking about this all of the time. And what we do in the city of Holland, even though we've got a phenomenal downtown and wonderful snowmelt system and great parks, we know that, as I said, everything we do is connected to everything else. Whether that's incredible economic development in the 5th Ward, whether that's our neighborhoods in the core city, whether that's the downtown, whether that's the lakeshore, whether it's our new waterfront development project, whether it's bringing high-speed fiber broadband to every address in the city of Holland for less than half of what you're paying now, all of those things are connected to one another. You can't just focus on one thing. You need to be thinking about all of those things all of the time, because that's the matrix that we're dealing with in the city of Holland. What we do anywhere affects what we do everywhere, and I'm acutely aware of that.
Larry.
Yes. It's working. Okay. Well, as far as what's going on downtown or what's going on in the community, the time I spent with Macatawa Area Coordinating Council, what I learned was we're going to be growing probably about the area of 30,000 people in the next 25 years. So wrap your head around that a moment. 35,000 people in the next 25 years. We've got to ask ourselves the question as far as how we plan on growing. Who do we want to be coming into town? What kind of businesses do we want to have coming into town? It's kind of important. I mean, we've got a business in the south side of town here that's going to bring in 1,000 jobs in. I've heard that they want to bring the North American headquarters to their business here as well. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. It might be a great idea. But what I've seen is when people come in from the outside and they put down roots here, that if the city doesn't suit them just well, they can just get up and leave just as easily. When Park Davis left, we lost about 500 jobs. When Lifesavers left, national corporations, we lost a lot of jobs there with that as well. We had another organization with Johnson Controls that left as well, and thousands of jobs. I mean, we lose a lot of jobs that way. The way I look at it, if we're going to be growing our city here, I think it's important for us to be looking at, first of all, how can we benefit or how can we work with individuals that are already here, who have roots in the community, individuals who have lived here for a while. So I'd like to really be able to do that, to be, if we're going to be giving tax abatements or we're going to give any incentives for people to come into the city and expand their business or something like that, I think we got to take a look at how it's going to work for everybody, because we don't have an unlimited supply of individuals to work in those plants. They're coming from someplace. And I think that if we pay attention to who we bring in and how the growth is going to be, I think that's going to be important in how we grow the city of Holland. And that's what I would like to do.
Thank you. And Larry, the next question is yours. What do you think is the #1 infrastructure issue facing the city?
Well, I'll tell you. I think that the biggest issue we have right now is trying to figure out traffic flow. That's what I've heard from people on the street. We're thinking right now about, and we have plans to grow the downtown area and to finish out the waterfront. And that's a great idea. It's excellent. I mean, there's some really good reasons for doing that. But when we look at the total scope of things and how people get around in town, it's difficult to figure out how that's going to work, and especially when you bring something downtown like that. When I was speaking once again with the McIntyre Area Coordinating Council, those folks were saying, we're going to have to take a look at some serious changes in how we do transportation here in the community. That's one thing I think that's really, really important, that we look at how we're doing that. I think that I just want to go and mention one more thing about the cyber thing. That is it's incredibly important infrastructure for us here in Holland. It brings things into our homes that we never ever had before. Years ago, I actually presented the Chamber of Commerce on things such as security and what that meant for us. And so if you ask me what's the most important thing, we're obviously concerned about the transportation we have, the issues that we're going to have. But I'm telling you, the security that we have for our citizens is really important. And I'm not talking about the city. I'm talking about our citizenry as well. As I learned what we worked over a period of years, the best way to keep people protected is to make sure they're aware. And we're doing a very poor job in doing that right now, especially considering artificial intelligence is coming in pretty soon. It will be a very big plus and a very big negative for some people. If we don't figure out how to deal with that, we're going to really be suffering a lot, and we need to.
Thank you. And the next question is also yours.
Marsha, I didn't have the opportunity to answer that one.
Oh, you certainly did not, and well, you should.
I'd like an opportunity.
And the next question will be yours.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Infrastructure. City of Holland believes that public investment in infrastructure can drive private investment and development in the community. And that's what we've been working toward. I'm listening to people all throughout the community saying, we're worried about the number of jobs that are coming into the community. We're worried about the amount of development that's coming into the community. How are we going to fill all of these jobs? How are we going to deal with this? I've spent my entire life watching the political system when jobs have been leaving communities, when businesses have been leaving communities. The exact opposite is happening here in Holland because of the things that we're doing to create a sense of community for the public in Holland. The City of Holland is spending $72 million this year alone on public infrastructure. A fiber broadband system, our anaerobic digester, snowmelt down 6th Street. We are looking at those things that need to be done to make this an attractive community where people want to live, work, and play. And that is vital for a community to continue moving forward. I actually sit on the policy board of the McIntyre Area Coordinating Council, so I know exactly what Mr. Shattuck is talking about. We work collaboratively. If you don't know, the McIntyre Area Coordinating Council is an organization that is made up of the City of Holland, the City of Zeeland, the surrounding townships, the Road Commission, and we have representatives from MDOT on there as well, to look at how we can work together collaboratively. Because while there may be 35,000 people that are moving in, they're not moving into the City of Holland. City of Holland only has 35,000 people. That's the region that we're looking at. This is an incredibly fast-growing region because it's an incredibly great place to live, because public investment in infrastructure is driving private investment in development.
Thank you. And actually, the next question is
Oh,
yours. How will you address zoning laws that need to be changed to allow for more affordable housing solutions?
We've already done a lot of that. 2 years ago, we went through a process that took well over 2 years. I was elected mayor in about the middle of the process. You may have heard of the term UDO, Unified Development Ordinance. We took our zoning and planning code, some of which was almost 75 or 80 years old, and rewrote the entire thing from the bottom up. And we knew that we needed to have a document that was easy for developers to use, that was easy for homeowners to use, and that could provide creative solutions and opportunities for developers, builders, homeowners to be able to take advantage of the property that they have in a way that also respects their neighbors. I'm a real estate attorney. Believe me, nothing makes somebody more upset than somebody trying to take away or change their property rights. So we worked diligently with the community over 2 years. We now have what we call neighborhood mixed use areas. We know that people like to live close to where they can walk to shop. So we've got lots of small neighborhood districts. If you've been out on US 31, you remember where Goog's used to be, and now there's a building there that has multiple businesses in it, but then apartments up above. Under the old zoning ordinance, you could have 1 housing unit there. Under UDO, you can have 8. We lowered the minimum size for an apartment in the City of Holland. I was worried at that meeting that we were getting too small with the apartments, so I actually looked up the studio apartment that I lived in when I was in law school in Wisconsin. Our square footage size is 50 square foot bigger than what I lived in Milwaukee. It works. We are looking at all kinds of opportunities, taking strip malls in what we call commercial mixed use. So the old Kmart store, you can put a second floor on that with apartments that go in there as well. And in addition, our huge industrial complexes, we now allow housing on those industrial sites. So if a company comes in and wants to build housing on that great green field that they have next to their factory, they can do that under the UDO if they want to. We've been working hard at making sure we've got those opportunities.
Thank you. Larry.
You bet. Well, as we looked at what happened with UDO over the course of the last few years and how it came into being and what it was originally proposed to do, we see that actually the people who were in town, who actually were voting on it, did not feel as though that they were being heard very well either, which is why the UDO had to be changed significantly from its original design. And in spite of the fact that we had some good planning, and I'm not disputing that there's some good planning going on, but the original plan that was foisted forward was not a real good plan according to the people in town. They didn't feel that the density was such that it was something that they could really accept. I've heard from people all over town, as I've knocked maybe 1,000 doors now, that what was being proposed before was something that was totally unacceptable to the people who were there. There was quite an uproar. even in sections of the town where there was significant support for the council and for the mayor. And I think that, as I said before, that what you really need to do when you're looking at zoning and things of that sort is you really need to assess what you have to work with. And we haven't done that in a way that's really good yet. And I think we need to spend some time figuring out what kinds of lands we have available for us and how we're going to use them properly, not just for one particular idea here at one particular segment, not for developers. I'm talking about how you're going to use that land for our residents here. I mean, how much of it are we going to use for multi-family dwellings? How much for individual dwellings? And when you're looking at that, you really have to pay attention to what the public feels. You have to also pay a lot of attention to what you have as far as an inventory, where those things are placed and how you want to do that. And as I said before, the folks that are in town here did not feel that way. And if you'll recall, there was a lot of change, a lot of grief and consternation when that happened. And because they didn't feel that we were working together as a team.
Thank you. And Larry, the next question is yours.
Okay.
If there was only one focus area in the next 2 years, what would that be and why?
In the next 2 years, I would really like to get down to a point where we could talk with one another, where we could unify together in a way that was civil for everybody. And I've knocked enough doorsteps here to know that half of the town feels that we're doing just fine, and the other half of the town feels that we're missing out on that. If there were just one thing I'd like to focus on, it would be that. And what I'm looking at is we've got a tremendous resource here of citizens that have some tremendous entrepreneurial spirit. They go all over, and we've got just a wonderful community that's come out of that and jobs that have grown out of that. But we're getting to a point, and have gotten to a point today, not just in Holland here, but this is nationwide. This isn't anything that's happened just in Holland here. Getting to a point where we could communicate. I'm telling you, it's hard when you can't sit down to the table with family. And I've talked to a number of you sitting around Christmas or Thanksgiving or family gatherings. We just have a hard time talking with people, with your neighbors. That's tough. I think we can do better than that. I would focus a lot on that. I would focus on getting us together in our communities, and I would focus on a great asset that we've got. We spent $18 million getting it in operation. That's the Civic Center. I think we could be using our Civic Center for something a whole lot more than what it's been used in the past for. And I would really propose that we take that center and we use it for what it's best used for. Bringing people together as a real civic center, giving us a time for forums where we can communicate, where you can go and you can feel safe to have a difference of opinion with your neighbor without feeling like you're going to be canceled, or you're going to be called something you'd rather not be called. Because I'm telling you, the people that I'm talking to, those individuals are afraid to even speak it. I've got people that have put my signs up that are being bullied at work because they put signs up because they have a particular idea of who I am. That's not right.
And the question was if we could only have one focus area for the next 2 years.
That is correct.
I wish we could only have one focus area for the next 2 years. We spin a lot of plates. Housing is by far our biggest challenge. And I really wish that more people in the community, and I think including Mr. Shattuck, had the opportunity to see how the process works here in the city of Holland. The Unified Development Ordinance that he says caused so much consternation passed 9-0. And a city council that is incredibly diverse with a lot of different viewpoints. And it passed 9-0 because it came out as a result of compromise that was made at this table behind us. I wish that he had the opportunity to sit in the planning meetings for Udo, because I sat with members of the Planning Commission with the city zoning map looking at every single parcel in the city. And I'm surrounded by not government officials, because I sit on that board, and one other council member sits on the board, but the rest of them are members of the public. This government is your government. We have 23 different boards, committees, and commissions that are occupied by people who are citizens of the community. And when I sat down with those members of the Planning Commission, we would look at a line and go, should this line be neighborhood mixed use or should it be single family residential? And they would go, well, you know what, on that street, that's that yellow house, right? Yeah, that's that yellow one, and there's a brown one next to it. These are people who know their community and are deeply invested in their community. And within these walls, we work really well together. As I said, most of the votes of the Holland City Council are unanimous. Not because we all agree, but because we disagree with one another in a civil manner. We have rules of council that require us to engage in civil discourse with each other, with the public, and we expect that from the public to the city council and the public to each other when they're here within these walls. And it works. It works well. The nonpartisan nature of this Holland City Council makes it an incredibly high-functioning body.
Thank you. And you have the next question. Some of the city's issues, such as traffic congestion and housing, are regional as well as local. How would you address issues that are not completely local?
I do it all the time. As I said, I sit as a member of the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council. So I meet with members of Park Township and Holland Township. And the mayor of City of Zeeland and I are good friends now. I didn't know him before I was the mayor, but we've become good friends because we sit at these meetings and we talk to each other about what's going on. And sometimes there's some consternation. Have you tried to drive by Russ's on 8th Street lately? Do y'all know that's not the city of Holland? Because I get a lot of calls from it. That's one of the problems and the confusions that there are in this community is that people don't know where those lines are, where the city ends and a township may begin. And frankly, there are more people that live in this area that have a Holland address that believe that I am their mayor than people who I am actually their mayor. I get calls and complaints about traffic on the north side all of the time. I got a screaming phone call from a guy stuck in a road construction project on Ottawa Beach Road. And I had to very politely say to him, that's not in the city of Holland, nor is Holland State Park. And so our job, one of my jobs, is to have relationships with those leaders of the other communities, but also to make sure that our staff does. Because remember, the mayor is not a full-time job. I'm not here every single day. I have another full-time job as well. This job is designed to be part-time on purpose. We are not the implementers. We are the policymakers. For those of you who don't know, and Larry, you might want to know this, the mayor of Holland makes $13,000 a year, $866 a month after taxes. It is not designed to be a full-time job. We rely on our staff and empower our staff to make sure that those relationships happen. And we have the best staff in the world at the City of Holland. They do a great job working with all of the surrounding townships and communities.
Thank you. Larry?
I really appreciate that little bit of information, Nathan, because I'm looking forward to having that little bit of money here coming in every month. That'd be pretty nice on a fixed income. So thanks for that little bit of information. In terms of working with individuals and working with folks outside of the area here, when the mayor came into office, he had some work and had some experience with that, and that's really good. It's wonderful. I've had experience working with people and with organizations across 9 states. That's kind of nice too. I mean, working in different areas as well. But in terms of looking at how we're going to affect the actual planning here and how we grow, I think that as we go forward in this, and as we figure out how much land we have, and as we do an assessment, I think as the mayor just pointed out, we take a look at those numbers and we take a look at that yellow house and where it's at. I think it's important also to bring in the community as well, and be able to speak with the community and say, what do you want your neighborhood to look like? In 25 years, when we've got 30,000 extra people coming around, and 109,000 is what's in the total group overall. But what do we want our neighborhoods to look like? What kind of growth is it that we want to see? What kind of businesses do we want to be bringing into town? Because depending on your answer, will really depend on how much you really work with policy, with zoning. You can basically go up, all right? Or you can shrink down the amount of plot size that you have. Or you can begin to work with other people in other townships and other communities and help those people to see that there might be an option to work with them as well, because they're going to get part of that growth as well. That 30,000 people, as was just mentioned, isn't just going to show up here.
Thank you. And Larry, the next one is yours. How will you consider climate change and other environmental issues in economic development?
Yeah. Climate change. Well, there's no discussion about that. It's actually happening. There is some climate change around here. You can't really argue with that. Really, the question is how is it all happening and what do we do about it? That's really the question I think everybody has in their mind. I think what we're doing right now, we've done some pretty good things in terms of the retrofitting of our power plant. We've gone from coal to gas. That's knocked down our carbon footprint significantly. Over the years that we're going to have that over the next few years, we take care of that $200 million investment that we have. It's going to be important for us to do a few more things, and we're working along with that. I've looked at some of the plans that the city has to incent some of our citizens to pick up things like insulation for the home and, the lawn tools, for example, to be, electric as opposed to gas. I think really it gets down to when we look at how much we can do. All right, we've got a battery plant that's outside of our city right now, and people are talking about alternative types of energy. Well, you know what? We can spend a certain amount of money on that, but we got to be careful how we do it because it's not really there yet. It's not there yet. I mean, Texas found that out when it got kind of cold outside and their windmills froze. There's a lot of places around that have solar farms that have just completely been deserted. I mean, they've just left them alone because they don't work anymore. And what you do with the waste that's after that is really pretty important to figure out what you can do with that. So I think we look at stuff like that, but maybe we don't jump on the first thing. We got a street sweeper here that we purchased, about $500,000. We used some funds for that. It doesn't work. About $250,000. They're trying to figure out how to make it work. It doesn't work yet. And we got a grant for some of that. We paid for some of it. I think it's a good idea. We need to basically look at how we do that.
Great, thank you. In 2010, way before I was the mayor, the city created a 40-year community energy plan to look at reducing our carbon footprint. And the idea was about every 10 years or so, we were going to revisit that plan. And just so you know where we stand, I'm going to throw a lot of numbers out at you, so try to keep track. I'm not much of a numbers guy, I'm more of a words guy. In 2010, we were generating 24 metric tons of carbon per person per year in the city of Holland. 24. The goal was, well, first they said, if we don't do anything, if we don't change what we're doing, we're going to move from 24 to 37. When the first community energy plan came out, they said, our goal is that within 40 years, we're going to reduce from 24 to 13. Well, we came back after 10 years. I put together a blue ribbon panel of local experts and members of the public and said, find out what we can be doing better. In those 10 years, yes, Holland Energy Park came online. City of Holland moved to completely renewable energy. We at the city and the Board of Public Works only use renewable energy. And that panel came back and they said, listen, what we've learned by looking at what's out there, what options are out there and available, that there's a quote that we think really makes a whole lot of sense. And that is, you don't rise to your goals. You can set whatever goal you want, but just because you set a goal doesn't mean you're going to meet it. You fall to the level of your systems. And if you don't have systems in place to be able to take care of this, nothing else is going to happen. Well, they came back with recommendations to us that said we'll not only make that 50 or that 13 by 2050, we're going to be at 12 by 2030. In the time that I've been mayor, there has been a 3,700% increase in voluntary renewable energy purchases by people of the city of Holland. We have recycling rates that are off the charts. And we do generate our own electricity, but we also purchase renewables on the market. It's like having a stock portfolio. You don't want too many eggs in one basket.
Thank you. And the next question is yours. The City of Holland, that is the council, is nonpartisan in nature. What does that mean to you?
It means everything to me. It does. When I was first elected mayor, people thought that I was some sort of far-left liberal, and that the mayor pro tem, Mike Trethewey, who many of you may remember, was considered a far-right conservative. Well, Mike was my mayor pro tem. Mike and I have known each other for 20 years. We like each other. We trust each other. We work together. And while we disagreed on a lot of different policy issues, we're in lockstep on one thing: process. Doing the process correctly. And one of the most powerful things in the world was when Nathan Box on the left and Mike Trethewey on the right both agreed. And we agreed way more than we disagreed. One of the most disappointing things for me while I've been mayor is when Mike Trethewey decided that he was no longer going to be a member of city council after about 25 years. He heard the swan song of his grandchildren in Texas, and Mike is down there. And Mike, if you're watching, because I bet you probably are, Mike decided to move there, and we needed a new mayor pro tem. I lobbied hard for Scott Corbin from the 5th Ward to be the mayor pro tem. Because he agrees with me? No. Because we disagree on just about everything there is in policy. But because we are also both lockstep in process. We know each other, we like each other, we respect each other, and we respectfully disagree with one another. So that when things like Udo come up that are controversial within the community, Mr. Shattuck's right. What was first proposed by the Planning Commission was not what was signed on by City Council. City Council voted 9-0 on a compromise of Udo, because that's how nonpartisanship works.
Thank you.
Nonpartisanship. I applaud the efforts of the council to be following process. That's really important. Process can get you so far. Process is very, very important. Problem is when process doesn't reach down to the citizen level, when the citizen doesn't feel as though the process is serving them, then that's really a problem. The citizens don't feel that they're being served by the process. That's a problem. And I've been talking to citizens all around this town since about Easter. And I'm just telling you, I don't care how good your process is. There's a number of people in this town that feel that they're being walked on, and that's not right. The process is very important, and I've been through enough process to know with my experience around the different organizations I work with. But it's not getting down to the level of acceptance by the people who live here, by a good share of the people who live here. I'm telling you, we had a vote, once again, roughly 52 to 48%. That's about half the town. Half the town doesn't feel as though that process is reaching them in areas that are really important to them. And one of them just happens to be, how we use certain assets. We can just, let's just take a look at let's look at the Civic Center. Civic Center right now is we spent $18 million for it. Before the mayor was voted in the mayor, he was actually presiding over what became our first drag show in town on Sunday with alcohol and lap dancing. A lot of people don't think that was good. If you're of the opinion that that's fine, that's great with me. I don't have any problem with that. But the problem is the people didn't feel that way. And you alienated, after 20 years of working, you alienated about half of the town by doing that. And it just wasn't right.
Thank you. I'm going to now combine two questions because I'm cognizant of the time, and I have many more questions from the community, as well as a series of questions on the cards. So I'm going to take the liberty of combining a few questions so we can get a few more answers before we get to the final closure. So Larry, I'm going to combine these two questions, and they would be, how will you learn what's on the mind of residents?
How would I what? I'm sorry?
How would you learn what is on the mind of residents, and what is the role of citizens in the decision-making process?
That's a great one. I've been waiting for that one. Learning what's on the mind of citizens, you do that by going out and knocking on a lot of doors and asking a lot of questions and speaking to a lot of people in different regions that are really affected in different ways, and people who maybe vote for you and people who vote against you. You do that by having a good discourse with people, by talking civilly with them. I think what we can do, as I mentioned earlier, was really sitting down with folks and having, somebody really suggested to me a couple of months ago about having, why don't we get together and have town hall meetings for the citizens here, along with all of the councilmen here. And we do have town hall meetings, by the way. Some congressmen come in and do those town hall meetings. But having our civic center used for a place where we can sit down and talk with people and bring up things that are challenging to us, you know, that we can sit down and have a real dialogue with folks. We can have a dialogue without feeling as though we're going to be stepped on or we're going to be yelled at or what have you. And I just really think that the way you find out how that's going to be going on is you have to talk to people. I met with a couple of folks last night, 15 or so people, half of them from the Hispanic community, that didn't feel that they were being serviced very well. They didn't feel their vote mattered, okay? When you're like that, when you don't feel your vote matters, okay, you're not apt to vote, you're not apt to really take that tremendous opportunity that you have as a citizen of this country and utilize it and see that your family is benefited very well for it. And I really want to have people involved in the voting process in a big time way. I think that when you have people coming here from different countries and different lands and they feel as though it doesn't matter when they vote, that's a sad, sad thing. I think we have to be engaged. We have to be involved with these people. We have to listen to those people who disagree with us and not sit there and demean them and demoralize them. I don't think that's the way you do. I don't think that's the way you do democracy. Not in a republic like we have today.
Nathan?
Thank you. Could you do me a favor and repeat the question?
I
one
will,
more
because
time?
there are
With
two.
two together, yes.
How you learn what's on the mind of residents and what is the role of citizens in the decision-making process?
Sure. I find out what's on the minds of residents by trying to be everywhere, every day, every place I can. Whether that's in an 800-person event for the Community Foundation, where people who love to give are paired with people who love to serve, or walking with 20 people from the VFW trying to raise money for veteran suicides. Whether that's going to Latin Americans United for Progress and talking to their board and saying, listen, I have 23 boards, committees, and commissions that I need residents, citizens, people of the city of Holland to be on those boards because that's where a lot of the important decisions are being made. And we've done a great job in increasing the diversity on those boards, but I'm going to be honest with you, it's difficult. It's terribly difficult to get people to step up and to feel like they are valued and feel like they're wanted. So one of my jobs as the mayor is to go out there to where they are and invite them into the table and say, yes, you will be valued. If you're a member of the Planning Commission, your decision will be valued by the City Council. If you are part of the Neighborhood Improvement Committee, the blueprint for flourishing neighborhoods that you put together to show what this community wants this community to look like, that will be valued by the City Council. Because we believe here in this building that our citizens are vitally important to making sure that this community runs the way that people want this community to run. And my goal and my vow throughout the entire time is that I want to make Holland a place where everybody feels like they belong to this community. And I will always value what anyone brings to this community that's positive, and that will always start with me as the mayor.
Thank you. And the next question is yours. What are your ideas to make all community members feel they are fairly and adequately represented? That would be seniors, low income, marginalized.
One of the things that I found really that's way more important than I realized it would have been when I was first elected mayor is it's important when the mayor shows up. I still think of myself as I'm just Nathan, I'm just a guy. But what I find is people really, really like it when the mayor shows up because they feel seen, they feel heard. Whether that's going to the Mural Festival that was taking place over on Columbia and 19th Street, and just chatting with the people who were there on the street who were amazed that their mayor would show up at their little festival that was happening, whether it's going to the Hispanic Heritage Festival, whether it's putting out proclamations. One of the few things, the exclusive powers of the mayor in this community is to put out proclamations. And I'm asked by people all the time, why would you put out a proclamation for Pride Month? And I said, you know why? Because people want to be seen. People need to know that they're recognized. And you know what? I put out one for Faith Month as well. And I put out one for the National Day of Prayer. And I just did one last week for Hispanic Heritage Month. And we do one for Black History Month and for Women's Month. It's hanging on my mother's wall in her condo. I dedicated it to her because I did it on her birthday. Those kinds of things people think are very important, to feel like they are seen and heard and valued in this community. A mayor that connects with the people and talks to the people of the community is vitally important, which is why I'm not home most nights. Thank you, dear. Why most weekends we need to make sure we do these three or four things before we go and get groceries, because people need to see me places. People need us to be there. Even though I still feel like little Nathan Box in middle school with a lunch tray in my hand, wondering if people wanted me to sit at their table. People want the mayor at their table. And I've tried my very best to be in as many different tables as I can be over the course of the last 4 years.
Thank you.
Would you repeat that just one
I
more
would be
time?
happy to. What are your ideas to make all community members feel they are fairly and adequately represented? For example, seniors, low-income, marginalized.
Sure, sure. We have an organization here, Great Lakes Urban, that the city has been putting a fair amount of money into. About $15,000, $20,000, I think was the last amount in. And basically what it does is it takes, it's called asset-based community development. And what it does is it gets neighborhoods together and gets them talking. And it gets them working with one another. It's kind of like the block parties we used to have a while back. Great idea. These people do a tremendous job with it. They take the assets and they look at what they have in their particular community and they pull them together. And there's some wonderful success stories of how this has worked throughout our city. I think when you take an organization like Great Lakes Urban and you really put some legs under that, and you work with people in areas that are challenged, in the Black communities and the Hispanic communities, and you get people talking together, that's where it really starts. If we're not talking together, if we're not communicating together as a united community here, if we don't speak with one another with respect and with civility, we don't get to a point where we can resolve problems. I can just tell you, I mean, you know, if you start looking at all the different things, you're scheduling events and trying to be with folks, I don't know. I sit down with people and I have dinner with them. I sat down with the leadership of La Houpe. I sat down with the leadership of I Am Academy. These individuals who are, I've lived next to them, all right? I broke bread with them. I sit down and listen to the people who are here as dreamers, individuals who came in and made something of their lives because Holland offered a place, an opportunity to pull their lives together. Quincy Bird sits on our council here. Amazing rock star story for Quincy, how he came here and the town treated them. Communication, it's important. And I think we got to do that on a regular basis and be able to talk to folks. And that's what I really want to do, is set those communities up where we can do that.
Thank you. Larry, the next question is yours. Almost 3 years ago, City Council passed what is known as the Anti-Discrimination Ordinance. What is your opinion of the ordinance?
Well, I'll tell you. My opinion is we live in America. That's kind of a fact. It's not an opinion. We live by the rules of the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. I think that when you look at those rules, at how they came together, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness is what that looks like and what that means to our country. Many women fought and bled and died to protect that right for you and for me. That means everything to me. I've spoken with some of those veterans. I've listened to their stories. I had a cousin who served. I had, uncles who served in the Bunker Hill way back in World War II. I think that when you look at where we're at as a country here, you need to understand that if whoever's going to be leading you, they have to remember that every individual falls under the guidance of those documents. But more than that, above that, we all fall under the guidance of our faith. Every one of us is created in His image, and I am not told to tolerate anybody. That would be a real mistake. I'm told to love my neighbor, and most of what we do when we argue is we talk about and we argue about how we're going to love people. So I'm just telling you, if I'm getting to be your mayor sometime, you have my promise. I will definitely adhere to those constitutional rights that we have. And I will treat every individual, doesn't matter what your color is, doesn't matter what gender it is that you have or call yourself or what have you. You will be treated with the highest amount of respect. If you ever have an issue with that and somebody's not treating you right with that, I will definitely be in your court. My door will be open to you. You can bank on that. You can take that to the bank, and I promise you that if I get that opportunity.
Thank you. Nathan?
Thank you. I'm not sure if I heard an answer to the question from Mr. Shattuck, so let me be very clear. I think that the anti-discrimination ordinance that was passed in the city of Holland, 8-1, is one of the most important things that has happened during my term as mayor. As we said in the last question, people want to be seen. People want to be heard. People want to feel as if they belong to the community that they live in. And that ordinance, and after hours and hours of public comment, and yes, members of the public, please come to our meetings. You can speak for 5 minutes at the beginning of every meeting on any subject that you want to. You can come every week if you'd like to. We'd like you to be there. But not everybody has the opportunity to do that. But for that ordinance, people showed up. People had very strong opinions, one side or the other. All that ordinance did is said the rights that are protected under the United States Constitution and the Michigan Constitution will be protected here in the city of Holland. And no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your skin color is, what your height is, what your weight is, what your sexual orientation or sexual preference is, we will protect your rights in the areas of housing and employment and public accommodations, meaning hotels or apartments. That's what we did. And you know what that did for the people of the city of Holland? People who felt like they were on the margins, people who felt like they weren't being heard, people who felt like they didn't belong or were included in the discussions and the process in this community. They felt like they belonged because we saw them, we heard them, we responded to them. And 8 of the 9 members of city council, and remember, we are an incredibly diverse council, 8 of 9 of us said, this is the right thing to do for the people of Holland. And I will stand by that every day of my life.
Thank you. And this will be the last question before we go to closing statements. So I'll start with Nathan. Is transparency an issue in our community government? Why or why not?
I don't believe it is in the city of Holland. As I said, we are a process-oriented city government. Every single one of our meetings is governed by the Open Meetings Act, which means not only can you come to speak to us at the city council, but every decision that we make, we have to deliberate and make that decision in a public meeting. I am a fanatic about following the Open Meetings Act. During COVID, we had meetings. Remember the old Zoom meetings? Thank goodness we don't do those anymore. We would have public meetings. We'd have planning commission meetings or zoning board meetings where there would be a lot of people that would be signed on to the meeting. And I would be fanatically looking up and down the list to see who was signed on. And if there were more than 4 members of city council, because 5's a quorum, and now that's a council meeting, if there were 4 meetings, I was frantically texting council members saying, sign off of this meeting. This could be considered a violation of the Open Meetings Act, and that is not going to happen here in the city of Holland. We make all of our decisions publicly. And remember, 23 boards, committees, and commissions that the people on those committees are not elected officials. They're people just like you. They are citizens of this community who have stepped up and said, I want to be part of this decision-making process. And they come to us as city council with recommendations. They do the hard work. They're the ones that are looking at the zoning map. They're the ones that are doing the inventory of every property that's there. They're the ones that are making recommendations on what should happen or shouldn't happen in the community. People like you are the ones who are manning those boards. In my mind, there's nothing more transparent than that, than the people of the community actively involved in the decisions of their community. That's how good government works.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah. There's a big deal going on right now, a big deal with the waterfront project. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people really have some hopes and dreams of seeing it happen. There's individuals who are really excited about it, and there's individuals who are really questioning. The people who are living in Ward 1 and 5 and 6 and some of the others are pretty happy. The ones that are in Ward 2 are kind of wondering, I don't know. Ward 2 had an opportunity to have an opposition to the people who voted and basically passed the decision for the waterfront project. That individual never got a chance to run because they were disqualified for following the rules. The rules were such as they were published that you had 2 months. If you had 2 months and you lived in that particular ward, you could be a candidate. And they went and they did all the work. The people did all their work. They got all the petitions signed and went turned in. The city clerk said, no, I'm sorry, you're disqualified. So Ward 2 lost the ability to have an opposing voice that maybe would have had some of their interests, seen their interests a little bit differently. The reason they did that, the argument was because we just published the rules wrong. We published them incorrectly. Well, how do you, what do you mean? The people are asking, what? Well, actually it was wrong. It was in the charter. If you'd looked in the charter, well, how do you find the charter? Well, it's in the website. I can't really find it. Here's my point. Transparency would have been, especially for Ward 2 that lost their right to have an opposition force that might have represented them differently than the individual who's going to be running in Ward 2 right now. Really would have been nice if the city would have said, you know, when the mayor and the clerk and the attorney, all three got together and they made the final decision that that decision was going to stand, it would have been nice if they let the city know. There was no transparency there.
Thank you. We will now end this segment with the candidates' closing statements. I am sorry.
Oh, I'm first?
No, you are not.
No, I'm not. All right.
I'm just waiting here.
All right.
All right, we'll end this segment with the candidates' closing statements, not to exceed 2 minutes.
Is that all we got?
That is all you have. And the order is now reversed, which means you get to
Well,
start.
ain't that special. Okay. All right. Mayor Box has got some really good positives. I'll give you that. He's done some good things. I'll give you that as well. There's no question about that. He speaks real well. He's got some great points and great numbers. I mean, I give him credit for that. I really do. I'm running because there's people who feel in this town they're being disrespected. I'm running here because I feel there's security issues that really put us at risk as an organization, as a community together. I'm running because those are not being addressed. It's like we've got our head in the sand. I'm running because I think we should have growth that's managed in a way that really takes these things into consideration of how we grow. And I think contrary to the signs that I see out there for the mayor, I see that working together is not something that everybody in this town feels as though is happening. Sorry, they just don't. That's what they're telling me. That's why they asked me to run. That's why I'm sitting here in front of you today right now. I'm the candidate because I feel leadership matters. I think focus is important. I think we need to focus on some things that are going to bring us into the future, things that we're not paying attention to now, things that are really significant threats that we are not paying attention to here right now. You know, I tell you what, it's, for me, when in security, I mean, I was sitting here probably, I don't know, maybe 20-some years ago trying to lobby for fiber here, not in this particular room, but with the Board of Public Works. But we're bringing fiber into the home. It's a super highway compared to a dirt path. And along with that, in the next 2 to 3 years, artificial intelligence is just beginning to break out. We're not discussing this at all. Not only are we not discussing the opportunities, we're not discussing the potential threats. We have kids coming out of high school now that we really could be incenting. We could really, these kids coming out of high school are pretty doggone smart. And we could be doing things to help them along those lines, and I would really like to have the opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this forum together. And I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. It's important. As we've all learned, it's important to know who you're voting for, what they stand for, and how that can directly impact your community. And again, thank you, Mr. Shattuck. It was interesting to learn more about the issues that you think are important. For the last 4 years, I have worked to provide steady, thoughtful, effective leadership, and Holland is thriving. We've made smart financial decisions. We paid off the power plant early, saving $40 million. We've balanced every budget, and we've not raised taxes. We've been investing in our future. We'll soon be breaking ground on our citywide fiber broadband internet system. We updated our 40-year community energy plan, and we're building a new Waverly Road fire station with 3 new full-time firefighters. We're investing $72 million in new infrastructure this year alone. And we have been working together, building community. We now have a comprehensive ordinance against discrimination. We've approved over 1,000 new housing units, and we're building a new ice skating park downtown. Holland is thriving. People want to live here, and they feel good about living here. I love serving as your mayor, working together, building community. But now it's up to you, the voters. If you value steady, thoughtful, effective leadership, I need your vote. As one supporter said, Mayor Box has delivered for Holland and has great vision for our city's future. We're a better city today than when Mayor Box took office. Our community will continue to improve under his dedicated stewardship. If you agree, I need your vote. So as your mayor, I can continue to make Holland a place where we can all exclaim, and we get to live here. Thank you.
We'd like to thank both candidates. We really appreciate your coming here this evening and sharing who you are and what you stand for. We also would like to thank the forum officials and all of you for participating by sending in your questions, by listening attentively. And we are sorry that we were not able to address all of the questions, but there are ways that you can get additional answers to those. So if you submitted a question that has not been asked, we encourage you to contact the candidates directly. And I'd like now to turn the forum back to Barb Ferguson.
Well, first of all, thank you. You are such an attentive audience. We have over 100 people here tonight. So thank you very much, and thank you to the participants for participating and for your commitment to public service. We really appreciate it. We hope you've gained some insights listening to the candidates' answers to the questions and their statements. You can learn more about them by going to Vote 411. There are questions there that they've both responded to. We would like to thank the City of Holland for providing the space for the forum and for assisting us with the technology. We invite you to join us again next week, same place, same time, for our candidate forum with those running for City Council. A reminder that the video of this forum will be available on our website and our YouTube channel in a few days. Copyright ownership of the recordings resides with the League. The candidates and their supporters cannot use the video recording of the forum, portions of the recording, or any audio clips or video clips for political advertising or other purposes without the written permission of the League of Women Voters. Most of all, remember to vote on November 7th. The polls open at 7 and they close at 8. All voters have the option of voting by absentee ballot. The ballots will be available in just a few weeks, end of September. More information about requesting an absentee ballot or confirming your voter registration can be found on Vote 411 at your local clerk's office or at michigan.gov/vote. Our website also has information. So again, thank you for attending tonight's forum. We really appreciate it.